Hello everyone, welcome to International Business Unit 8, entering foreign markets. So today we're going to be talking about how companies move into different markets and how they enter the market. That is really what we'll be looking today. So first of all, we have a video. In this video, we see how burger chains fail in Vietnam. So we need to we don't need to you don't need to watch a video if you don't want, of course, but it will be interesting if you go into the video and understand how the macro environment plays a very key role into the development of a business. When you don't really understand the market, when you really don't understand the macro environmental factors, really it could be a fail regardless that you have been proved to be successful in your domestic market. So, first of all, we're gonna be talking about again like the methods for entering the foreign market. We're gonna be talking about exporting, licensing, joint venture, and wholly owned subsidiary. Okay, so pretty much it's a progressive process, right? It depends on how much risk you're willing to deal with from exporting. So just put my product there without me really getting too involved, to all the way going to a wholly owned subsidiary, which means I really open operations there. I really have a factory there, and so all of these methods are determined mostly by how much risk you want to accept, what is your strategy, how much it costs, whether you have the capital to really go into another market, and also transportation costs and trade barriers. Sometimes I want to sell or I want to have operations in a certain market, but I cannot. So maybe I'll need a joint venture. I need a partner to really sell it there. So let's go to that. We must decide which markets to enter, when to enter them, and how much investment we're going to do in that. Okay. So based on that, so like I said, why we need foreign markets. So mostly the main reason is because we look for an opportunity. We already have a market that is already capped. Our local market already is exhausted, right, in terms of numbers, or we already have the expertise. Also, we can be because we already master our market. It's exhausted, and we need new opportunities to bring new business in. Okay, so the same thing, it's part of diversifying. We see markets that have good opportunities, so they can serve us as a cash cow, right? They can bring new inflows of money, and then somehow, if our economy is not doing very well, then we maybe go and expand there. And that brings us to the timing of entry. When is the right time to enter the market? Let's say, for example, we have the case here of Myanmar. Myanmar is having tons of opportunities because of the change of the government. The question is, when are we gonna go in? Mostly because it's still risky. It's still a market that is still too wild, if we want to put it that way. So we need to really understand how we're gonna go into. So that brings us to being a first mover. That means you're the first one that goes and opens the market. That's fantastic. That means that probably if you're successful, you're gonna be the first one that captures the market, right? That has the largest market share, that people will remember, or they will remember the brand. They have the first brand that moved in, right? Here, for example, the case of McDonald's and KFC in China. KFC entered first into China rather than McDonald's, and they have a much more market share than McDonald's, right? So in this case, like I said, first mover, people remembers you. You have access to resources, channels, etc. But the problem is pioneering cost. Means you will fail in a lot of areas. You have to explore the market. You may have suppliers that are not working properly. You may not secure some resources. So the cost of introducing a completely new product into a completely new market takes time. Maybe because it's already a product that already has some good acceptance in other market, it may be better. But let's look at the example, the case of Vietnam that I showed you just now. Yeah, they know McDonald's, they know hamburgers, but to educate the people to eat fast food and hamburgers, it will take a lot of time. So for them, really having little operations there and develop slowly, it might be a good advantage, but mostly they are facing the disadvantages. And of course, also we talk about the scale of entry. That means, like I said, are we gonna do it like McDonald's or this fast food hamburger joints in Vietnam, which is slowly the scale. They are not decided to really set full operations and have a massive expansion because their the reach is not really good. Okay, so we were talking about modes to enter the foreign market. So first of all, we have the easiest one, which is the export. The exporting is I'm just gonna put the product there. Mostly, yeah, you can be the distributor too somehow, but most of the time we are not the distributor. It means I just put it there, I just send it there, and then whoever decides to open a shop, they can sell these products, right? I still have to I don't have to have manufacturing companies there. I just put it there, all right? Problem is cost of transportation and taxes, right? When I am producing a product outside of the country, I may have to pay for importing taxes, and also the transportation fees might be very expensive rather than if I produce it in that country. We have also the this is a, this is a very obvious turnkey, right? It opens the door. Sometimes we have some projects where a we we have a partner abroad, we work in a certain project with them, and maybe we place a product, we see some positive feedback from the consumer, and we decided to maybe expand operation and maybe start into again importing or exporting, and maybe a joint venture that will lead already to a joint venture. Okay. In this turnkey projects is advantages, of course, is there's not much commitment, but the disadvantage comes exactly at the same thing because we are working with someone else in there, and probably we gave them a good idea, and they might use a very similar business model of ours, but they started on their own. So here the problem mostly is the partner. Who's a partner? How we're gonna work with them and make sure that they don't take the benefits in the future for them, right? And also that one goes together with a joint venture. So that's very similar. Turnkey projects are shorter already. Then we have the license. So that means I give you the permit to do it, manufacture it there, right? So in this case, I I am just gonna tell you how to do it, but still every single part of the process belongs to me. Here, for example, I put the Nintendo. Now, Nintendo does a lot of licensing because they don't produce many things. They produce some of the hardware, but the software is mostly done by someone else in anywhere else. So in this case, again, we have that all the intellectual property still belongs to us, but we let someone else do it. The problem of the licensing is that, again, the partner can start to copy the things under another name, right? Maybe I let them manufacture. Here, for example, I put some like chips, no? The Doritos, that is Lotte and Frito-Lay. Yeah, I may give them the opportunity to have the license to do the Doritos, but they may come with Nachitos, which is very similar, and this tastes very similar. They look very similar, but in the end, the profit is for them, and then of course they may put higher emphasis into that. So that's a problem of the license. Franchising here very common. I give the right to someone to open the business under my name and under my procedures, but they manage and they mostly make the profit for their own. It's a business that they will benefit mostly. For me as a franchisor, of course, a I get fees from using the name and rental and copyright. I mostly will do the marketing for them because the marketing is for all the franchises, not only for one. But of course, I mean, I don't take much profit out of that. This is very minimal. However, this franchising method works very well when you want to have a massive expansion of your brand, and you may not have the resources to open so many stores by your own. So you let the franchisee absorb all those costs of opening a shop in a certain place. We have the joint venture. Joint venture is here, for example, a firm can benefit from a local partner knowledge. So in this case, for example, I would say Lotte and Frito-Lay. Frito-Lay, rather than just coming and dealing with the suppliers, the market, distribution, etc., says, okay, Lotte, let's make it 50-50. Okay, I put some investment. You also already have some factories of it. You already have access to suppliers, so we work together. For me, for you, maybe you don't want to develop a new snack. I will develop the snacks. I'll give you already that big name of Dorito, but operationally you do it for me. So it's a win-win situation, but again, it can be like licensing. It can create problems of one of the partner maybe doing their own thing. And then we have the wholly owned subsidiary, which is I open operations directly in another country, right? Here, the case, for example, of Disney. Maybe they already tried putting some products, some stores, they realize it works, and then, of course, they go for a whole new one. Here, there's a bit of an issue because Disney China, for example, majority of the capital is owned by the Chinese government. So in this case, again, it's one of the issues. You want to enter that market, it's profitable, it's good, but there's too many regulations that don't let me go in. So in this case, for example, for Disney, they had to compromise on that and saying, well, there's sufficiency in the market. If we can't go into the Chinese market, then that may work very well. Yet here, the disadvantage, and actually it's often mentioned that Disney China, like for example, the songs are in Chinese, and then many of the things and attractions are in Chinese. So somehow looking at Mickey Mouse speaking Chinese is odd for some people. Of course, for Chinese that is okay, it's normal, no? But in the end, I mean, it's a decision that Disney had to compromise because in France they still sing in English, and in Hong Kong they still sing in English, but not here. In Tokyo as well. Tokyo also has some Japanese, but not that. So in this case, again, wholly owned subsidiary involves a lot of investment. If you have the money, if you have the resources, good. If you are able to really, if you think that the drawbacks, well, the benefits outnumber the drawbacks, then it's fantastic. You say, I'm willing to go to the learning curve in order for reaching a very high profit. So that's when we decide to do that. Okay, very good. So in this case, we have why we decide to go again. We can see because maybe we have why we decide to go and enter mode and how did we decide it. Maybe we already have the technological know-how. Our competitive advantages, we go into a certain country because we have the technology more advanced than other competitors, and it's a good opportunity to set up operations there with that technological know-how, or we have the management know-how, or we have both of them. Here the example, for example, McDonald's have the management know-how and the technological know-how. They have the both of them, and for them it's a competitive advantage when entering another market. We also have a cost. No? We also know how to manage the cost. So that's another method, which is we are very competitive. For example, IKEA. This is IKEA. IKEA actually has the three of them, which is the technological know-how. They have the management know-how, and they also have the cost reduction, which is three things that actually guarantee almost that you can enter into that market successfully. IKEA here in Korea has been very, very successful. So we have here also acquisitions. So acquisitions happen when you want to enter that market, but the learning curve is too tough and you don't want to go through it. So here, for example, we have this Techcombank and Lotte Card in Vietnam. So for you to open a new bank in Vietnam is too troublesome. Regulations are way too extensive. Financial institutions, it's a market that is very difficult to open in any single country because of all the regulations of money. Not everyone can just open a bank in that. So in this case, what do they do? Rather than opening Lotte Bank, or Lotte Card credit, It's difficult to open a credit card company. Then just acquire this bank, and then boom, all the doors are open, right? They already have the customers, they already have the locations, they already have the system, everything is there. The only thing is that you have to change what? The management know-how. I'm gonna change the practices of the bank to the Lotte card practice. And that's it. It's very simple as that. Now, the problem with acquisitions is that sometimes they fail because they are not really supported by the mother company, or the acquisition has fails to have synergy to really understand how the mother company has set operations and processes. The mother company has to have very clear methods of developing the process so that they can follow. Otherwise, it doesn't work well. The same thing also happens when acquisitions fail when the acquired company has a lot of debt, and then it only appears when it's acquired. A lot of debt or financial problems or operational problems too. So in this case, we have to, when we do the acquisition, we have to understand, okay, they have a lot of debt, but I know it, and then I'm able to cover it, rather than, whoops, suddenly there's a lot of debt. Okay. So, well, mostly the reducing the risk of failure in an acquisition is know them well. If you know the company well from in and out, and you have a strategic plan for really introducing them to your operations, should be no failure. It should be fantastic. And then, of course, we have the Greenfield Ventures, which is, we decide to set subsidiary companies. Here, for example, Lenovo has done that very successfully, which is they are part of our company, but they operate on their own basis. So let's go, for example, to the case of this bank, right? This one, the Technobank and Lotte Card. They still operate the same thing. They operate in the same way, but in a Greenfield will be, I let them operate on their own. I don't give them anything to do. They are doing very well, but I'll just use them as some channels for increasing my profit, my revenue, and so on. So in this case, like I said, for example, Lenovo has done a lot of this one. Here, for example, we had Lenovo and NEC. Then they created the NEC for Japan, for the Japanese market. They kept NEC there and there. They still operate on their own, but the Chinese is entering the Japanese market using the name, because mostly Lenovo, well, I mean, I don't know if everyone knows that it's Chinese, but probably Japanese mindset is I'd rather have a Japanese hardware than a Chinese hardware. So in this case, that's a benefit in this case for that subsidiary. It's somehow disguising this, I'm Lenovo, but actually it's NEC with a NEC name there, right? So which choice? Again, actually for all of them, the choice depends on many areas. Again, what is your capital, your risk appetite, the conditions of the market, etc. The macro environmental factors, they play a very big role, and also your strengths and weaknesses too. So we go again to strategic management in here, which is when we have the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then we manage them. We enter into that market, and depending on the risks, we will decide. So great, thank you so much for watching the video, and don't forget to do your quizzes, and I'll see you next week.